Subcommittee on Homeland Security will come to order. Welcome to the Subcommittee Markup for Fiscal Year 2025 Homeland Security Appropriations Bill. I would like to welcome the full committee chairman, Mr. Cole, and ranking member DeLauro, as well as subcommittee ranking member Congresswoman Underwood, and all the members of the subcommittee. I will hold my comments until the end, so I'll begin by recognizing the distinguished gentlelady from Illinois, Ms. Underwood, for her opening comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. It's an honor to be with you all today in my new capacity as acting ranking member for the subcommittee. I look forward to the meaningful work that we will do to advance our security and the well-being of our nation. I'd like to thank Chairman Cole, Ranking Member DeLauro, and Subcommittee Chairman Amodei for their continued commitment to this process, as well as the subcommittee staff for their hard work and support. While we have had difficult and necessary conversations about the legislation we are considering today, I am thankful for your partnership in this process. Through bipartisan work, we were able to agree on some shared priorities, including sustained funding for child well-being specialists, expansion of employee wellness and suicide prevention programs, and resources to increase accountability at the Coast Guard as we work to protect cadets from sexual harassment and assault. Yet even with these silver linings, this bill falls short of addressing the real and urgent needs of the American people. The challenges our country faces cannot be understated. We are living in unprecedented times and must look to solve both new and old problems with innovative and effective solutions. As we confront threats from foreign adversaries, experience a rise in domestic extremism and terrorism, counter the flow of dangerous narcotics like fentanyl, and support our growing communities, the appropriations process gives us a chance to put our money where our mouth is. Unfortunately, the legislation put forward by the majority today misses the mark and ignores our country's most pressing needs. Instead of investing in real solutions to the challenges we face, this bill invests in extreme MAGA policies and ignores the voices of the American people. That is why I cannot support it. This bill increases funding for outdated, inhumane, and ineffective solutions to respond to the humanitarian challenges at our border. Yet at the same time, with cuts like $2.1 billion to Border Patrol operations, including the complete elimination of the Shelter and Services Program, this legislation strips away funding needed to keep our borders and communities secure. Eliminating the Shelter and Services Program will not stop migration. It will only hinder the ability of states and localities to manage the surge humanely and safely, ensuring chaos and desperation across the country. As Republicans have tried unsuccessfully time and time again to make detention the one-size-fits-all solution to our immigration system, their bill does not reflect our American values. This legislation also fails to protect Americans from extremism and violence. By cutting funding for targeted violence and terrorism prevention grants, this bill sends the message that state, local, and tribal governments, as well as nonprofits, are on their own when facing extremism. And the list goes on. This bill fails to make critical investments in the cybersecurity and infrastructure needed to support our national security goals. It does not consider the urgency of climate change and fails to make investments that would ensure the resiliency of our communities. This bill is short-sighted and leaves our nation vulnerable by embracing ineffective and disproven MAGA policies. It lacks serious solutions to the grave challenges we are facing here at home. Instead, the majority has inserted extreme policies that they know are going nowhere, just for political points. Time and time again this Congress, we have seen this majority choose to cut essential programs and services, senselessly inflicting real and needless harm to the American people. This bill is proof of that, and I cannot support it. I look forward to working with my colleagues on a bipartisan bill that puts people over politics and funds the priorities that will keep our country safe, healthy, and prepared to face our homeland security challenges with resolve. Thank you for your time. I yield back.
Thank you. I would now like to recognize Chairman Cole and recognize you for your comments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to first thank you, Chairman Amodei, Ranking Member Underwood, and of course my good friend and working partner, Ranking Member DeLauro, and all the members of the subcommittee for being here today. The government's chief responsibility is protecting the homeland and keeping Americans safe. With the threat environment continually evolving, we must arm our homeland security and enforcement agencies with the tools needed to prevent, identify, and address dangers. The measure before us is crucial to that. Long gone are the days when oceans insulated us from attack. From border and transportation security to cyber attacks and the evil of human trafficking, the Department of Homeland Security is responsible for protecting our communities from a vast number of threats. This bill ensures that The men and women of DHS who work tirelessly on our behalf have the resources that they need to protect the nation, and we know they are urgently needed. You don't even have to turn the news on to know one of the greatest challenges our Homeland Security agencies face today. America's doorstep is wide open. For the last 3 years, the situation at the border has deteriorated. More than 2 million people will cross the border this year alone. And the dark reality remains that the crisis has only empowered criminals, terrorists, and other nefarious individuals. As a result, this bill makes strong investments in border security and immigration enforcement, including additional funding for physical barriers, sustaining 22,000 Border Patrol agents, increasing the level of detention beds to 50,000, investing in border security technology to detect illicit migration and stop the flow of fentanyl. To counter the growing threat of Chinese influence in the Indo-Pacific region, the bill provides additional resources to the Coast Guard for 4 fast response cutters and increases engagement with Pacific nation partners. Finally, the bill makes crucial investments to sustain and enhance domestic cyber and critical infrastructure defense capabilities. I want to thank Chairman Amodei, Ranking Member Underwood, and the staff on the subcommittee, both the majority and the minority, for their hard work on this bill. I look forward to the consideration of this measure, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would now like to recognize the ranking member of the full committee, the gentlelady from Connecticut, Ms. DeLauro. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I want to say a thank you to you and to Ranking Member Underwood. And yes, my dear friend, Chairman Cole, for holding this markup today. We have 2 new faces leading this committee. I thank you both. Chairman Amodei and Ranking Member Underwood, thank you for your work on the bill. I also thank the subcommittee staff in the majority and the minority for their efforts, especially Bob Yoakum and Shannon McCulley. This Homeland Security bill fails to secure the border and instead stokes chaos and disorder, wasting hundreds of millions in taxpayer dollars along the way. The House majority has rejected every serious legislative effort to address and end the crisis at the border. They rejected one of the toughest bipartisan border bills in history that had a viable path to passage, pronouncing it dead without any debate. It would have allowed the administration to adjudicate cases that were not eligible for asylum. Their alternative, H.R. 2, is unserious and inhumane and has no path to becoming law. As far as being serious about solving anything at all, the bill before us simply is a facade. In the midst of a crisis situation at our southern border, the majority's bill cuts Border Patrol operations by $2.1 billion. As a 25% cut from fiscal year 2024. The bill once again wastes taxpayer money on impractical border measures and ineffective barriers rather than focusing resources where we need them most. This bill withholds the resources needed to manage the border humanely, to process and vet the increased number of people arriving in the United States, and to support border communities and cities receiving migrants across the country through the Shelter and Services Program. This is a missed opportunity to support humane pathways and processes for people who require and are legally entitled to refuge in our country. And it is a missed opportunity to reinforce our security, our preparedness, and our response capabilities. The majority bill weakens our national security with inadequate cyber and infrastructure security investments and by failing to counter extremism. The bill specifically inhibits the government's ability to counter disinformation campaigns, which are increasingly being used by global adversaries and foreign actors seeking to undermine our elections. And like other appropriations bills we have considered thus far, the majority's Homeland Security bill has once again included dozens of pointless and cruel policy riders that harm women, divide Americans, divide the Congress, and create chaos. We all know that the final version of this bill will require bipartisan negotiations to make sound investments. Once again, the majority's process is driving Congress towards further chaos, dysfunction, and shutdown threats. This bill's anemic and misplaced investments are standing on a house of cards, built upon drastic cuts to the funding bills that keep teachers in classrooms, keeping rooftops over families, keep our nation secure, and ensure a fairer economy for working-class Americans. We should not consider this Homeland bill until the majority abandons their harmful and partisan process and provides all 12 bills with funding levels that can gain the agreement of Democrats and Republicans in the House, be accepted by the Senate, and become law. The Fiscal Responsibility Act provided for, and Democrats will accept nothing less than 1% increase for all domestic and non-defense programs. Increasing funding for the Homeland Security bill just to waste it by not securing the border does nothing to help Americans with what they care about most. Last month, we received a letter from dozens of stakeholder organizations already frustrated by the House majority's stance, and it reads, "We ask," and I quote, "we ask that you take the opportunity in fiscal year 25 to restore some normalcy by rejecting these extreme and polarizing provisions and cuts, which are as damaging as they are unrealistic." Again, I ask that the majority reconsider the path it is on, and when they do, I look forward to improving this bill so that we can manage our border responsibly and invest in programs that make our country more secure. I yield back.
Thank you, Madam Ranking Member. I will now yield myself such time as I may consume to make my opening statement. First of all, I'd like to thank the members of the subcommittee for their participation and insightful questions during our budget hearings over the last few months. That goes double for the staff on both sides for your help, and I appreciate the strong function that the staff continues to play in helping the committee do its work. The bill before us today provides $64.8 billion within the subcommittee's budget allocation and a $22.7 billion for major disaster response and recovery activities. The total within the allocation is $2.9 billion above, let me say that again, above the fiscal year 2024 level. The chaos on the border caused by this administration requires additional resources, so this bill makes the following investments in border security: sustains funding for 22,000 Border Patrol agents and includes additional hiring flexibility, provides $300 million, a record level of funding for border security technology, provides $600 million for border barriers, and finally, invests $305 million in non-intrusive inspection equipment to detect fentanyl at our nation's ports of entry. In addition to our efforts at the border, the bill also includes funding for critical immigration enforcement efforts, such as provides more than $3 billion in total to support 50,000 detention beds for ICE, which was requested by the administration's representative in hearings before this committee. That's 16,000 more beds than the administration requested in its official responses. Provides $822.7 million for flights and ground transportation for ICE to execute the statutory authority to remove more than 1.3 million migrants who are still in this country yet have final orders of approval, and includes $60 million to hire more than 250 new law enforcement personnel to investigate transnational criminal activity and help keep our communities safe from those who wish to do us harm. To counter the growing threat of Chinese influence in the Indo-Pacific, we are making investments in the U.S. Coast Guard, including $335 million for 4 fast response cutters, as well as $60 million for a service life extension to enable the Coast Guard to deploy another medium endurance cutter to the region. $4.2 million increase maritime engagements with our allies and partners in the Indo-Pacific. This bill ensures that we fund core responsibilities of the department and protects, I repeat, protects the homeland. I want to thank the staff again, both on the majority and minority side, for their hard work. Do any other members wish to make opening remarks? Record should reflect that there were none. Do any members wish to offer an amendment to the bill? Our record should reflect there was no amendments offered to the bill. Now I recognize Mr. Rutherford for the purpose of making a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move the bill be favorably reported to the full committee.
You've heard the motion. The question is on the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those no?
No.
The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. I ask unanimous consent that the staff be permitted to make technical and conforming changes to the bill and report. Seeing no objection, so ordered. Copies of the bill and report with technical and conforming changes will be delivered to all full committee members' offices no later than 3 business days before full committee markup. Thank you very much to everyone. That concludes today's markup, and the committee is now adjourned.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to you two kids. Very exciting.